With the Citi Double Cash Card, you get 1% cash back when you buy and 1% as you pay. That's like the joy of discovering the last donut.
Ooh.
And it has your name on it, literally, in chocolate sprinkly things.
No way.
Double the love with the Citi Double Cash Card. Apply now at Citi.com/doublecash.
Mike Ryan is destroyed. Destroyed. He's wearing his UM gear, but it's half-hearted. He's wearing a Charlotte Showdown shirt, Miami Clemson. He wore that even after that injury. Richards is out, by the way. He was carted off the field. They've done a disservice to that young man. He is a professional talent, and they kept him on the training table all season, fighting through all sorts of stuff until his body finally gave up yesterday.
College sports being unethical?
That's Amin Elhassan, and something we were discussing before he arrived here, right before the microphones got turned on. We were discussing Cody, and what a great question Amin asked me as a fan of Cody.
Huge fan.
And a fan of what we do around here. He asked me, what was Cody's reputation before this radio show?
It's a good question. Journalist, right?
That's not the question he was asking.
He was so respected, especially locally. He was the guy. What Edwin Pope was, Cody was the next Edwin Pope.
Do you think he still is, like, respected locally?
No.
That's destroyed this man's career.
What do you mean we've destroyed
Maybe we've
it?
saved his
What
career.
do you mean we've destroyed his career?
Like Madonna, he's reinvented himself.
He gets in here all the time and gets so many hearts. So many hearts and likes every time. Because the thing we were talking about is we were just reminiscing about the idea of that when we went national, Cody was absolutely the one that we were most scared would not work. And so it's been quite the delight to see Cody turn into the one everyone loves more than anyone else. And that means question's a good one, though. How did you think of Greg Cody before this radio show? Because I think serious journalist would be the right answer.
I had experiences with him, not as a guest co-host on our show, like singing songs and just being wacky Greg Cody. And then you see him go on like PTI or the Dan Patrick Show, and he was professional, credible journalist Greg Cody. But I knew a little bit about Greg, so it's hard for me to, like, I kind of viewed him, even before this show, I viewed him as a guy that was lovable, that was funny, that had a good sense of humor. I didn't really ever view him as serious journalist guy.
I did because I grew up, and I know I always make Dan feel old when I say that, but I grew up reading Dan and reading Greg Cody, and when this radio show started, I had completely different perceptions of them. I didn't like Dan all that often because I didn't agree with him because I thought he was this player apologist. I thought he took himself too seriously.
And Cody took the easy stance.
Took himself too seriously. How about that one?
Yeah. and it was a shock to the system and a welcome shock. And Cody, I had no idea. I knew he had dad jokes, but I didn't know that he essentially was the joke. He's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. So the funny thing is, a few months ago, I went back and I listened to the very first episode of the Dan Le Batard Show.
Oof.
And I can see why he thought that. Because you're angry. I don't know what you're angry about.
Well, he's angry at me.
The show had just started.
It was just the first show. I was scared. That first show, I was scared.
He was nervous, man. He asked me to get out of the studio for the first segment.
I was scared.
He did.
Yeah, I noticed that there was no chiming in. It was just Dan.
Chiming in. I didn't have a mic. He kicked me out.
Well, one of the things that happened, they put like 50 people in a studio like the one across from us because it was the debut segment of the show.
Right.
Was it when the station launched?
Yes. Yeah.
The day it launched?
First day. Yeah.
And so there were just a lot of people watching me. Like there were 50 people in a room, cramped into a room, just staring at me.
I mean, the owner was in the studio with you, I believe, with a camera right in your face.
Yeah, I was just scared.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you were literally reading off a manifesto. This is a show. We're going to talk about this. You're looking for this? You need to listen to a different show. But it's so angry. I'm like, Dan, no, you act like you did it today and went back in time to go deliver it because you already knew all the crap you're going to get on the text line.
The first words ever uttered on this show were Chidi Ahanatu, and it was pretty sportsy the rest of the first couple of months.
Yeah.
And the show, what drew me to the show initially was Dan being different, but the show it certainly wasn't what it is now. What drew me to the show was guests that I hadn't really heard on South Florida radio. I'd heard Beano Cook twice a week, every week on WQAM. To hear Grant Hill at not necessarily the height of Grant Hill, but still, that's right, friggin' Grant Hill.
Right.
Yeah, no,
I was responsible for Beano twice a week, by the way.
But after the show found its rhythm, which I think was maybe around when Hawk came aboard, it took about a year for them to figure out, okay, Stugotz, he's an idiot. This is a character we can fall back on him being.
Surprised it took that long.
Yeah. Well, you were the man in charge, and you had aspirations of still being taken very seriously.
That's one of the funny evolutions. I've just realized that while we're talking about this, that you, me, Cody, we all had some need to be taken seriously, and that's really kind of unraveled.
Yes. And then yesterday, I was taken seriously about my Eli Manning rant, and I was mad about being taken seriously.
Aggregated? Did you get aggregated?
It was everywhere,
Did you get aggregated?
That's the verb, man.
What is the aggregated verb? When they just take a clip and throw it all over the network?
When you say something,
like
then all of a sudden...
Flowers. Like Clinton Flowers at the student section, they just throw it all over the network.
So I'll give you a great example, right? So Enes Kanter the other day said, if anyone of my teammates gets in a fight, I'll pay their fine. Go ahead and do it, right? Which you can't do. That's just cosmic. You can't say that out loud.
This guy is so from Turkey. Don't give a bleep.
It's okay.
Turkey.
It's okay. I got your fine. Right?
The rules, these American rules, they do not matter. I've got your fines.
But I'm going on Sports Nation, and they're asking me about it. And they said, "Oh, is this crazy?" I'm like, "Well, I mean, it's not crazy that he said it. It's crazy he said it out loud, but it happens all the time." I said, "Do you know any examples?" Like, yeah, well, Shaq did that. Shaq would say things like that. What, can you say it on air? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, no one cares. And I'm like, I say it, and then it becomes, and then I get aggregated. And every outlet, Shaq would pay, and like Bountygate, Shaq style. And I just, you know what? I'll leave it alone.
So instead you did it here.
Yeah, I did it. No one's listening. The local hour. The local hour somehow gives me this feeling that I can do whatever. I can start cussing right now.
Wild West. Yep.
As long as 10 a.m. hits, then I put on my suit and tie, and then we get proper.
That's so not true.
That's the feel, though.
No, but I'm saying as it relates specifically to you don't at any point during these shenanigans, at any point in the day, put on your suit and tie and get professional.
Hold on. I'm talking metaphorically. I obvioly don't put on a suit and tie
I understand what you're
unless
saying.
I have to serve.
Wait a minute, 10 a.m. is it different you than 9 a.m.
Oh
you?
man, I'm cleaning it up. You're getting.
Well, don't.
Yeah, stop doing that.
You're getting network TV at 10 a.m. Right now, this is late night. This is HBO.
It's 9 a.m. HBO. There's a soft porn on.
That's funny.
2 in the morning. That's what you're getting.
Who came up with the term soft for that?
Softcore?
Yeah.
Well, I guess one's hardcore, so the natural
the starting point was hardcore.
Yeah.
And then all right.
Where do we go from
Seems
here?
like a logical place
The
to
middle
go.
would be diluted core.
Was hardcore first used to describe pornography and then spilled out to everything else? Hardcore rap, hardcore this, hardcore that, or is it the other way around?
It's interesting. I would like to know the origins of hardcore.
I'm on it.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Did hardcore start with porn or some other phrase? Did the phrase hardcore?
Since we're kind of here, do you think he calls it penis canter?
Only when he can't get it up.
What?
Why? In a frustrated tone?
Penis canter.
Penis canter.
Oh, yeah. Like canter.
Wait, what origins am I looking up here? Because I just got you guys.
Wait a minute. He was
Whoa.
emphasizing
Double.
the can't instead of the penis.
Yes.
Yeah, next level stuff.
Yeah.
That's why this is HBO at 9 a.m.
You don't get this at 10 a.m.
Right there. At 10 a.m. he buttons it up, and you're not going to get that terrible joke at 10 a.m.
Only you, Miami.
I was zigging. You zagged.
Zagging it.
Penis canter?
Digging it.
Man, he's lucky he didn't grow up in the United States. Right? Because
Let's not pronounce Enos, though. That's the starting. It's not Curtis Enos or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's Ennis.
Ennis.
that really didn't stop you when you said that he was calling it his penis canter.
Well, no. Billy called it that.
I know, but you rode with it.
Okay, the joke has started. I'm not here to derail the joke.
I'm here to keep the trains moving. I'm just here
on time, baby.
I'm here to keep the jokes moving through. That's why you were so mortified by the poor job you did that stopped us all staring at you on penis canter only when he can't get it up. The train got stuck. I'm wondering as it relates to Greg Cody.
Couldn't stop that penis canter last night, though. Penis canter all over us.
What happened there? The Heat lost.
They're embarrassing, man.
30. They're embarrassing again.
2 nights in a row, man.
They're embarrassing again.
Porzingis got hurt early on. I wonder if his ankle's
Well,
going to
here,
be okay.
let's ask him.
He's fine, by the way.
What
He's
the
a
hell?
lizard.
What are the Heat? What are the Heat?
They're 10 and 11.
Thank you. Classic overachieving team that when it doesn't overachieve doesn't look very good. And I think, and I haven't checked these numbers in about a week or so, but the biggest thing was obviously Dion Waiters went from being, oh my God, to, oh yeah, you're Dion Waiters again. That's one. Another thing is Tyler Johnson, Richardson. The shooting that they had last year is not there. And oddly enough, losing Luke Babbitt and Rodney Magruder, 2 more shooters. So they have less shooting on the floor, so everything is harder now.
Well, you mentioned everything is harder now. They had 3 or 4 weird plays against Cleveland where they're hitting the bottom of the rim, and I don't know what to do about this. I mean, maybe you can help me because you know this much better than I do. But at this point, even though he's only 20 years old, I've watched enough of Justice Winslow, and it's not the shooting, even though that was obvious to everyone last year.
There's something else?
It's a lack of touch. It's a simple lack of touch. I'm talking about, never mind jump shooting. I'm talking about when he's going to the rim, he doesn't have all the athletic grace that he had before he got there on the touch he puts on a basketball, and I'm worried about that not being correctable, even though he's really young.
So the example I always think about is when people say Dwight Howard has no post moves. So, well, no, he's got post moves. His footwork is really good. It's just the end point, which is a feathery soft touch, is just a high five of the ball straight to the rim. So it just goes line drive, either it's going in or it's missing terribly. He doesn't get the benefit of the doubt of those touches and rolls and drops. And Winslow has a little bit of that. He's not a good finisher. And I think that is a damning thing because he could survive in this league as not a shooter.
And he can fix the shoot. You can fix the shooting.
To a very large degree, he has corrected it tremendously if you compare this season to seasons past. And if you just look at him, his form's a lot better.
But so you guys are with me on the idea of just a lack of touch around the rim. Like when he goes
well, that's
up,
the surprising thing. I'm with Amin. Like, he can't finish. I thought he'd be able to finish, and he can't do that. And so you compound that with the fact that he can't shoot.
No, but it's not even not finishing because Klay Thompson's got some of that weirdly.
I feel like that one's overblown. I think he has high-profile misses, and that makes us think that Klay Thompson's not a good finisher. He's all right.
Okay.
Winslow is actually a poor finisher.
No, yeah, what he
numerically,
statistically, what he throws at the rim sometimes, it's like I wince. Like I'm like, how from that close? What it looks like something a big would do. It looks clumsy.
Right.
Where it's like, wait a minute, you're a graceful athlete. How when you get near and around the rim, are you throwing something up there that feels very hard?
And Mike, you're talking about the shooting, by the way. Like in the month of November, he's 38% from the field. Like,
but
he's just not a good shooter, man.
But he's also given you, let me see what he is from 3.
38 from 3.
Yeah, that's
in November.
That's really good.
That's
really
incredible.
good.
And for him.
For him. That's incredible really for him. And like I said, look at him. It looks like it has a higher chance of going in. But I think what Dan just mentioned is that's the it that's missing with Justice Winslow.
All right, so you're with me on that.
I am, because he has so many things to like in a player. He does almost everything, and he's just missing that je ne sais quoi, and I think you got the je ne sais quoi.
What?
Okay. That's the
hell is that?
Never mind.
Is that a stat?
Is it je ne sais quoi or is it yo ne sais quoi?
Je ne sais quoi.
I'm making it Hispanic.
Oh, you're making it Spanish. Can you imagine being like a Spanish-speaking immigrant in France, right? Just flipping everything that they would do here with the English language, but doing it with French, like yo ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are we supposed to do with that?
Yeah. Anyone got the dead fish?
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Don Batard.
Stu, just because you have a cough button, which works, by the way, doesn't mean you have like the liberty to just cough as loud as you possibly can, because there are other mics that aren't hitting a cough button at the same time. So if you need to cough or clear your voice, just try to do it a little more discreetly.
Okay. Gotcha.
Stugotz.
I thought when you hit this cough button, it mutes your microphone. That's what I thought.
It does, but you're so loud and vile that other microphones are
It's
picking it up.
such a loud cough that all the microphones pick it up. And this is only, I don't know, the 40th time we've mentioned it to you.
Sorry about that, Dana.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on the ticket.
All right, we have this wonderful resource that flies across the country to be with us, really knows basketball. Amin Elhassan flies in, spends these days with us, and Mike, you're going to like this as someone who cares about the Heat. This most valuable resource spent the entire break writing numbers on a piece of paper, analyzing the Miami Heat. There was some analysis. Right now, next to that microphone, there is some analysis that cannot be found anywhere else in the world. Mm-hmm. This resource has been brought here. It has been given to us, a blessing from God.
And I'm your Pope. I'm here to tell you
You would be Jesus in this scenario, or the vessel for the information.
There you go.
Pope.
I don't know. I'm not Christian. I'm just going on. Don't you guys worship your Pope?
You're not.
I'm not either. But
you're not our Pope, and you ruined it. And you're not keeping the trains on time because you keep getting in the way of the jokes.
There was no joke there. So we're talking about what's the biggest difference between the Miami Heat team last year and this year, right? And an easy way to look at it is just say, "Oh, they're not shooting as well." I said that. We've all noticed that, right? But here's the funny thing: we have this tool. It's available to us at ESPN. It's called Eagle. It uses the optical data, so everyone knows about the cameras that are in the arenas that track the players and track the ball and everything, right? One of the things that they're able to determine is the quality of shot. Not just, hey, that's a good shot, but we can actually put a number on it saying what we would expect an average NBA player to shoot, not only from that spot, but given the same circumstances, where they are on the floor, how close the closest defender is, etc. And then we can assign what that average player would shoot, and then we see what the team is shooting. So last year, the Heat were actually kind of top third of the league, top 10 in shot quality. But the actual shooting they did went above and beyond that. They shot better than what we would imagine an average team to shoot, given those types of shots. And that obviously propelled them. When you look at this year, their shot quality is actually better. They're taking better shots this year. It's just they're not making them.
That was some quality intel.
I can give you numbers, but then people go to sleep.
No. I felt like we went right into the belly of the beast there.
It's a make or miss league. I mean, I'm just trying to save you all the stuff that you just did, writing and all that kind of stuff.
Numbers.
And math and numbers. And just say it's a make or miss league. This year they're not making their shots.
Well, that's not what he said.
Because we knew that.
Eagle.
The detail there that stood out from Eagle and our personal Jesus Pope, Amin Elhassan, the detail that stood out there is him saying they're getting better shots this year. That's not something I knew.
They have the fourth best shot quality in the league right now.
That right there, the belly of the beast is providing fruit right now. Do you feel it? This is why we fly him across the country at considerable expense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Amin Elhassan. Thank you very much.
Your job is done
You're
here.
You're going to leave for the show because you gave us.
That was pretty terrific.
Yes,
good job.
Fourth best shooting in the league.
He actually
quality of shot.
Almost walked all the way out of the studio.
I realized that the cameras weren't on, so this bit really helped no one.
I mean, I have
just
tools.
slowed the show down again with a joke that nobody understands.
I have tools. My eyes and my gut. My eyes tell me they're not making those shots, and my gut tells me they're a bad team. How about that?
I love that move. I love that move so much. When there's a pause, you know you said something that's a little bit too harsh, and you follow it up in the silent awkwardness with, how about that? Like, here, I know this in your face, that this poop I've thrown in your face doesn't smell good.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. Weird device.
So what you're telling me, Amin, is that they're going to be better soon? You would think, right? If they're getting good shots?
It depends on what you believe on the people shooting, right?
I don't know what's going on.
You
with Tyler
think that
Johnson.
they can be at least average shooters?
I got to believe Tyler Johnson's better than this. I do not recognize that person right now.
That's crazy.
Not just because he's a werewolf that doesn't have teeth.
You just don't.
Right.
I mean, do you believe in their shooters? Do you?
Look, I think you'd have to be pretty optimistic to feel like those guys are shooters. I think they can shoot better, but I think when you say shooter in my mind, where no matter what your number is, I know it's going to get back up. I think of people like Wayne Ellington.
Yeah.
Like, that's a shooter.
I trust Wayne, and the Heat have been a different team when Wayne Ellington shoots well this season. He'd really struggled at the early part of the season. You saw it in their box score. I'm a realist. I'm not silly that I don't think Dion Waiters and James Johnson are ever going to sort of replicate that shooting. But Tyler Johnson needs to.
It's funny because James Johnson's played really well. I mean, that's one of the guys that people thought, we'll give him some money. What's going to happen? He's played really, really well. But I think, again, the difference between him last year and this year is last year there were threats all over the perimeter. And this year it's a lot more congested.
Well, help me understand something, because when you went into the belly of the beast and you grabbed good numbers there. But when you said before that, they're missing Magruder and Luke Babbitt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, come on. I'm like, come on.
You know what those guys are, though? Reputation shooters. Reputation shooters means if I'm 0 for 7, on that 8th one, the defender's still there.
No, but they're getting the 4th best quality of shot in the league, even without that spacing.
That builds in. The reason why it's a great quality shot is because there are no defenders around them.
Right.
You know why there are no defenders around them? Because they're all in the paint. They're all making life harder for Waiters drives, for Dragic drives, for Whiteside post-ups.
You're more inclined to close out on Luke Babbitt than you are on Justice Winslow. And remember, closeout doesn't necessarily mean contest a shot. If a guy's coming to close out, it opens up so many other things on the court.
But then you're making the argument that if I right now dropped healthy Magruder and Babbitt into this, I'd be getting an appreciably different result.
I think you would get a better result. And that's not to say, they messed up by letting Babbitt go, or Magruder's injury.
I will drop kick you if you say that sentence. I will put you on a flight back to Arizona.
Better with Babbitt.
I flew here from L.A. First of all.
I'm saying I'll drive you right to the airport. We will get in my car
back.
and we will go.
It's not Babbitt. It's just someone that defenders have to respect out there. Like, I can't stray off him that much, because if I do, it'll hurt us, and then I got to hear it in film session. How are you going to leave Shooter in the corner?
All right. What would you guess was the number of minutes played per game last year by Luke Babbitt? What would you guess?
It's not about his minutes. It's about, I'm Dion Waiters. How many other guys on the floor are threats from the outside? That's what it's about.
But hasn't Olynyk replaced a little bit of that, or a lot of that? He's plus 40% from 3, isn't he?
His rotation is weird, though. He's not usually out there.
It's actually 49%.
What I think Amin's point is...
Wait a minute, what? That's not right.
Am I reading the internet wrong?
Yes.
I don't think I am, Gus.
He started really hot.
Made half his threes this year?
He started really hot.
Yeah.
For a stretch there, he was the best three-point shooter in the league. I think he's fallen off a little bit.
He's 49%. I'm looking at it right now, ESPN.com.
Right now?
That was my reaction.
Holy cow.
I'm not sure whether to believe that or not.
Whoa.
49% is
good.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think Amin's point is when Olynyk's out there, you're still down one shooter. Olynyk's replacing a guy that's usually out there.
There's a critical mass of guys on the floor, of shooters on the floor that you need to reach, and if you don't reach it, it doesn't matter that there's one great shooter. It's like, okay, so that guy stays home, that defender stays home. Everyone else is still playing free safety, and that feeds back into the Dion Waiters thing. Dion Waiters shooting back like he used to hurts because last year he'd built the reputation. Guys, I know the scouting report says Waiters is streaky, but he's on one hell of a hot streak since January 17th. We can't treat him like that anymore. We have to start treating him with the reputation of shooter. The problem is he's come back down to earth. What we suspected was a really great contract year, shooting-wise. I'm not saying effort or anything. I'm just saying performance-wise, looks like it's a little true. He's regressed to the mean of being a 31, 32% three-point shooter, and that's not enough to put the fear of a help-side defender. And we just turned into the sportsiest show ever.
Yo, I got to give you credit, man. That was pretty revelatory because I
Mike eats it up.
I wasn't understanding what I've been seeing with this team. I understand their record is 500, and you're going to get half as many frustrating performances as, hey, we can be pretty good. But I didn't understand because a lot of the parts are the same. I didn't understand what I was seeing.
Well, I'm still having a hard time believing exactly what he's saying. That however it is that you frame it, and he makes a very good argument for it, an exceptional argument for it. However it is you're framing it, you're still telling me that the difference between 30 and 11 last year and 10 and 11 now is Magruder and Babbitt. And again, I want to drive you to the airport.
Make Babbitt the MVP.
I think you're focused on you're focused on the individual parts.
I think you're focused on Babbitt's haircut.
Yeah.
Oh, you play 15 minutes a game.
It's a holistic look. You got to take an overall look at the system, right? It's not about, I'm missing this one irreplaceable part, which is, I think, the mistake that a lot of people make when they watch basketball. It's to why the Thunder are struggling. How can you put 3 Hall of Famers and they're under 500? Because they don't fit. Because they don't have the right amount of chemistry. And sometimes chemistry means, I need someone who's not as good as that guy. We all accept that he's not as good as that guy, but he just fits more. He makes life easier.
One of the big debates going on right now in Heat Twitter land is how much more time do we give these guys? Because there's 16 days left until you can trade some of these
hold on a
contracts.
second. We're going to get to that in a second. Hold on to it for a second. But Stugotz, are you smiling about the same thing I'm smiling about? Because we've got a tension in this room now that I don't know how to manage, which is Amin wants to do our silly show, and Mike wants to do dorky basketball. Please give me any Heat crumb of information that you have, and if you have anything on the Hurricanes, I'll take that too.
Right.
And they want to do different shows. Amin wants to do the show that is not what he's normally doing.
Right. Mike Ryan is suckering you into doing the show that Mike Ryan wants to do.
This is how I get Lou Bega slurs thrown at me.
But man, we spent 10 minutes talking about Luke Babbitt.
It's good stuff.
It was good stuff. See,
I feel like I blew it up with Olenek stats, though.
You know what's funny?
you threw an Olenek grenade from Molotov cocktail from the corner.
Dan Le Batard.
God, what a game! Definitively know who's better.
Wait a minute, what's that music?
I'm not sure.
It's happy music.
It's a happy piano. Like, what just happened back there?
Someone fire off a spot or something?
Stugotz.
Wait, hang on. I got another browser open. Yeah, it's an ad for cookies. I gotta get is there Mozilla? Firefox. Deny pop-up block.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on the ticket.
I want to continue down this path, analyzing this tug of war that we've got going on here between the show Amin wants to do and the show Mike Ryan wants to do. Because, Stugotz, you've been here before, and this is one of the joys of now having become friends with people like Amin and Dominique, that they really appreciate what we do, but we also really appreciate what they're good at. But they get self-conscious sometimes if they're being good at the thing that they're good at in our environment. They're like, no, but let's get back to the show. But you remember how hypnotized you got when Dominique was talking about the way that he and Ed Reed covered somebody, and you're just sitting there mesmerized and hypnotized because you still love all that sports stuff. So what's happening between you and Mike right now where Amin is burying you in analysis that makes you know more about your team, and Amin is sitting in the middle of it saying, this is boring, and I'm about to get to the more boring numbers?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's funny. Well, it's funny because from my perception, when I watched Dominique do that, it was actually fun and interesting and different. But when I hear myself talk, I hear a lecture. And I know from the listeners that the lecture thing, like they want the trains to run on time, and they don't want it to get gummed up with heavy-duty analysis.
But part of the reason we love having you here, Dan is right, is you provide something that we simply cannot provide. But
and the reason anywhere else at the network,
anywhere else. But the reason Amin wants to be here is he's doing that everywhere else, and I don't think he wants to do it when he's here.
It's not even that. It's just the idea that, well, first of all, there's also another crippling self-doubt about, man, they brought you here for this stuff right here. Like, if it wasn't for this stuff, you wouldn't even be here. So stop fighting it. You're like, no, I just want to have fun.
Well, that is how you got in the door, because Mike's a dork about this stuff. And Sedano was telling us how good you were. And so many people were telling us, hey, get Amin down there. He fits in with what you guys do.
Yeah, I'm flattered by Amin, because I think out of all of our co-hosts, and this is saying something, Amin probably loves our show more than any of them. He is a diehard fan of our show, and Dominique is too, but you guys are fighting for it. But I think Amin's the biggest fan of our show.
Well, what's Pablo doing here?
But I have a loyalty to the listener too, and we brought you in here because you're really good at this, and you say it in a way that Pablo hasn't figured out. And I like to show that off a little bit more because too often we just have a good time with you here, and I don't feel we give you the opportunity to shine.
I felt that one a couple of times. In fact, I've apologized to Amin a couple of times after shows because we're doing so much nonsense and we don't get to that stuff that sports fans love so much, which is Amin giving you analysis that you're not going to get anywhere else. Like Luke Babbitt and Rodney Magruder are the reason that the Heat aren't the 1 seed.
You guys ruined my HBO hour. You guys took my late night blue comedy special and made me Dave Coulier.
Yeah. Well, there's a balance here, but I think all too often we ignore Eagle and Babbitt and whatnot.
Well, for sure. It's easier to ignore. All of that makes your head hurt. And you heard what Stugotz doesn't want to give, because Tango and Cash over here doesn't want to give it any more thought than make or miss league, man. And it's like, and they're missing their shot. And that's also accurate, by the way. It's superficial, but it's better than the Amin dig deep dive into Luke Babbitt and Rodney Magruder.
To be clear, I don't want anyone to think that I'm basically, oh man, only Luke Babbitt were still here. What's he doing? Putting up triple doubles in Atlanta? Like, no, I get it. I'm just saying.
Is that where he is?
It is. He got a 1 year, a low deal. Putting up triple doubles. That feels like a rap song from the 90s. Luke Babbitt putting up triple doubles in Atlanta.
Has Luke Babbitt ever been mentioned in a rap lyric?
No.
He's got a great name.
No,
it rhymes with rabbit. It rhymes with stab it. Dag nabbit.
Oh, wow, man.
Dag nabbit. Which rapper would that be? The rapping dupe?
Great reference.
Yo, we just lost 90% of the audience. Bring back Cody.
Yeah, but I made 45-year-olds in the audience really happy right there.
I like your Caddyshack.
There's a little Chris Berman in it too.
You do two good impressions, Berman and Ted Knight.
I don't do any good impressions.
No, those two are good.
I'm never trying to do either of them. They just appear. I'll just go, buh, and there's Ted Knight. Like, it's
very close.
They are very close.
That's such a limited repertoire. Chris Berman and Ted Knight.
Oh, man.
You want to talk basketball again? Because I feel like we might just peter out because I don't think the Berman and Ted Knight.
No, you don't think you can carry us the rest of the hour?
I don't think you got 2 more minutes. Do you?
I want to bring this up.
10 more minutes.
Keep going.
What were you saying?
I was saying that Mike said I'm a big fan of the show, and I want to share with the audience what I was texting you the other day. I listened to the show on Tuesday, which I thought was a phenomenal show, but the highlight of which was the ventriloquist with the dog and Dan believing.
Oh, my God.
Can you believe that?
So,
Dan, of all people,
without seeing the video, as soon as I heard it, I said, Dan, like, come on, right? But then I said, Mel, let me watch the video. Maybe this guy's just amazing. And I was expecting the dog to be like, "We," like, "Yes," oh, like that. And instead, the voice the dude did for the dog was like this. "Hello. Yes, I see." Like, I'm like, Dan,
how?
An animal can't even make that noise, let alone on prompt.
I know. That's why I got fooled.
See, Daniel? Like,
it was the patio. It was windy, right? You're out on the deck or something.
I was making words that you need lips for.
Drinks were the larger.
So I'm laughing, crying. My dad walks in and says, what are you laughing at? And I said, this video that Dan Le Batard thought was an actual dog talking. And my dad pauses and thinks, very thoughtfully says, "And this man is your mentor?" I'm like, no, I just work with him once a month. That's it. I don't really know him that well.
That just felt like it came. Wait a minute, your dad. You just did something that felt like it came from a foreign film.
My dad is foreign. Sorry.
I just view your father sitting for some reason in a religious, either a temple or no, and this man is your mentor. Nobody speaks like that, and this man is your mentor. Like that's a movie line.
My dad has a certain je ne sais quoi, or je ne sais quoi, as you might say.
Ooh, that's two.
I understand what you're saying. Like he's right.
And this man is your mentor. That's not like that's not. Nobody speaks like that.
And you trust this man?
Mike, what did you want to ask him about the Heat? What is it that you wanted specifically on the Heat?
Well, I wanted to ask because Heat Twitter's sort of up in arms with the last two performances. We had worked ourselves into, okay, we're figuring it out after that Celtics game, and then you had a little bit of a mini sustained run there of better basketball. And now people are just counting down 16 days so you can trade some of these contracts. And you mentioned somebody like Paul George. I get texted every time Josh Richardson is bad or the Heat lose. Oftentimes, that's the same night from Zaslow with his frustration. And last night he was texting me, trade Hassan, get Paul George. Wow. Get Paul George.
The assumption there is that Oklahoma City is saying, guys, this Paul George thing isn't working out. We might lose him at the end of the year. Go get me another center who doesn't pass the ball and wants the ball all the time. I mean, it's just that's mind numbing. It's not fantasy basketball where you say, well, I'll do that and then I'll flip Steven Adams somewhere else. So you can say, oh, we need to move guys. But the other half of the equation is usually where that falls apart. It's like, oh, Josh Richardson playing bad. Let's call up all the teams that are lined up for bad playing Josh Richardson with a big contract. Mm-hmm. Like that's not how it works, right? And so when you talk about the assets the Heat have available to change their season, it's fairly limited, right? It's Goran Dragic.
Justice maybe. Bam maybe.
Bam on his own, no. Bam attached to something else.
But Bam's an attractive piece.
Yes.
Wasn't he perfect from the field for 17 points?
Well, this is part of what's happening with the trade Hassan movement, is that he looked really unusually. He made Hassan against Cleveland look not as athletic as Hassan is because he was playing so much bigger, harder, and better.
High energy. He's a high motor guy, so anything next to that looks, I mean, sluggish. Hassan already has that little bit of reputation. You put that next to him, it's almost unfair. It's not that he's being super lazy, although, again, those are accusations he's been hit with before. It's that this dude is so high energy, makes everybody look.
No, but Hassan was playing. He had on one.
I'm trying to be nice because he thinks I hate him.
No, on one possession, he had these 5 like lazy ass picks. Like they were just like he wasn't even trying. He was just waiting for when do I get to cut to the basket.
Yeah, and yesterday, and I don't think it's coincidental, coming off of that Bam performance, which was, I mean, a sight to behold, really, because Bam was amazing against Cleveland. Hassan says, hey, the knee's a bit of a concern. Now, that may be a legit explanation as to why the Cleveland game looked the way that it did. But Hassan has this reputation where I just sort of sat back and I was like, really, dude? Bam has a game, and now you're going to start going to the media.
But just so that you know, though, the Bam did look great against Cleveland. You're only checking one side of the floor, though. He looked great offensively. There were dunks and dunks on the other end because he kept doing things wrong back there.
Yeah, understood. But he's also shown tremendous defense on guys like Karl Anthony Towns. And the Cleveland game, it was weird because Bam's never going to give you that offensively either, even though he showed you a touch that even Justice Winslow was lacking.
But Whiteside hasn't earned enough in terms of you could still see him doing stuff like that, Mike.
That's a tough thing, right? Because Hassan,
maybe the knee's just hurt.
Hassan's done so much to earn trust, and I feel guilty for not reciprocating.
But he's done a lot to earn distrust as well.
Early on, though.
But yes. You have dated information. Yes, he's been for a good long time now. He has been
2 years, I would say, right?
Yes.
He started midway through, not last year, Wade's last year.
It brings up a more interesting question to me, how much time needs to go by before someone's reputation on that front changes? Because we could go 5 years, and if Hassan Whiteside is a knucklehead one time, we're going to say, oh, look, he relapsed into knucklehead.
Look at Zach Randolph. Zach Randolph completely rehabilitated his image. Everyone loves him. He's lovable. He has one incident that was also
same old Zach.
Everyone, there's a lot of people like, oh, I told you.
This past off season, right? Yeah.
And it wasn't even his fault.
And he had like a decade, I would say.
Yeah, but the distrust is a reasonable one for people to have. Not just, yes, you're right, 2 years of good behavior seems like something you could trust, but it feels like the distrust has been earned, at least in part, because all of us are like, wait a minute, dude, look at you. How did you fall through the cracks? Like, just look at you. We're all watching you play, and that's such a large mistrust to have, where we're all like, wait a minute, you're a max player? And you were out of the league because look at you.
Yeah.
Well, look at what we just did. Amin was rattling off our assets. He started with Goran. We mentioned Justice. We mentioned Bam. You'd think your max 7-footer who shows athleticism that you don't see from that position all that often.
Well, that was the conversation where it started with Hassan.
So
right?
there's a flip side to that as well, right? The other idea is that as the league is changing, players like Hassan not as valuable as they once were. I think we're going to see the same thing with DeAndre Jordan, who's going to be on the trading block at some point here for the Clippers. Just that guy is not. I'd rather have a 6'9" guy who can guard 3 different positions and shoot threes than I would a guy who dunks and blocks shots.
What an amazing evolution.
Crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, that happened so fast. In 5 years, 5 years, the big man became a dinosaur. Where, like, 5 years ago, you'd be saying, yes, everybody wants the big man.
Right.
You draft the big man. You draft Odin over Durant because he's the big man.
Right.
You could say Daryl Morey was at the forefront of this whole revolution in terms of, well, what I was going to say.
There's some more forefronts going on.
Understood. Well, Phoenix, I'm going to give you guys some credit, obviously Phoenix, but Morey was smart enough to realize, hey, this is where it's going, and even he was enamored with the Dwight Howard and built an entire offseason to get that piece.
Mm-hmm. But that's about the tipping point when we all realize, okay, league's going in a different direction.
Yeah, it's Dwight Howard.
And Michael Jordan goes, I can win with that.
Right. Well, actually playing well, Dwight Howard.
Yes, he is. Right.
Well.
Yes, he is playing well, but not with a style of basketball that has any possibility of winning anything meaningful at any point in the season. I could win with that. What, you give me a big man? Man, I won with Luke Longley.
Bill Wennington.
Right? That's what he's saying.
Man, those are some stiffs.
Yeah.
Will Purdue.
Right, Will Purdue, right. You get me Dwight Howard. I'll rule the league.